Charles Bukowski was one of the 20th century American writers, known for his rough and bold perspectives on life. He was born in 1920 in Germany and immigrated to America with his family in 1923. Bukowski's childhood was a dark period marked by his father's regular infliction of violence upon him. Being an immigrant made him the subject of ridicule due to his accent and clothing, which made him feel ostracized. His face was covered in pimples and acne, further adding to his lack of self-acceptance and isolation. This painful and solitary childhood shaped Bukowski's distinct outlook on life and his desire to express himself as a writer. In a later interview, he mentioned how his father had taught him the true meaning of pain, stating, "When you're beaten for a long time, you tend to say what you really mean." In his early 20s, after studying for 2 years at college, Bukowski dropped out and focused on a professional writing career. While working various short-term jobs in America, he also wrote hundreds of short stories. However, during this period, only a few of his stories were published, and those that did make it to publication generally did not succeed. After a few years, Bukowski nearly stopped writing altogether, feeling disheartened by the publishing process and his perceived lack of writing ability. Later, he worked various blue-collar jobs for several years. In 1955, at the age of 35, after a period of nearly a decade of not writing due to a serious bleeding ulcer, he almost lost his life. However, he survived, and then, almost as if it were a sign, he quit his job as a mail carrier at the time and started writing again. Later, after a few more years passed, he published several works during this time, but still didn't achieve much success and had to return to his previous job. Yet, this time around, unlike his previous experience, he kept writing. He focused on writing at every opportunity before going to work. He continued this way for years, occasionally writing a collection published in magazines, but achieving very little success. For him, real success meant living by writing, rather than gaining money or fame. Of course, we know the end of Bukowski's story. He is currently remembered as a prominent and successful figure in the literary world, continuing to be talked about as a writer, even years after his death. However, Bukowski didn't achieve traditional or public success until his 50s. During his second stint at the post office, despite continuing to write for years, true recognition only came when his typical works started to be noticed and appreciated by an audience. Yet, at 50 years old, at the tail end of the conventional career timeline, Bukowski got a real chance and capitalized on it, starting when it seemed everything was over, quickly gaining more success and recognition in the literary world and general culture. Bukowski's years-long efforts and struggles in writing took quite a while to turn things in his favor. It's quite striking that after writing to achieve what he desired since his youth and to fulfill the purpose of his life, it resulted in a message on his tombstone that says, "Don't try." Particularly, this message is rather grim for a tombstone and contradictory to his story. Bukowski didn't refrain from trying to succeed. What mattered most was that he didn't try to appear as someone else. He attempted to be a writer, but he didn't try to become one, nor did he try to write based on what he wanted. He simply wrote and continued to do so. Creatively, we often perform at our best when we are true to ourselves, natural and honest, discovering our true identity and what we want to express or do. If you find yourself struggling to desire something or feel anxious about it, perhaps you don't truly want that thing, or maybe it's not suitable for you. Bukowski's years-long struggle and endeavors in writing took quite a while to finally turn in his favor. It's quite striking that his pursuit of what he desired since youth to fulfill the purpose of his life culminated in a message on his tombstone that reads, "Don't try." Especially for a tombstone, this message is rather bleak and contradictory to his narrative. Bukowski wasn't lacking effort in seeking success. The crucial point was that he didn't try to appear as someone else. He attempted to be a writer, but not by trying to become one, nor by attempting to write based on what he desired. He simply wrote and continued to do so. Creatively, we usually perform at our best when we are true, natural, and honest, discovering our true identity and what we want to express or do. If you find yourself striving to desire something or feeling anxious about it, perhaps you don't genuinely want that thing, or perhaps it's not suitable for you. Bukowski continued writing throughout his life, without making an effort to alter or suppress his own voice. Rejection, or the pain he endured, never deterred him from writing. Bukowski's primary approach was not to strive to be something, but rather not to be something he didn't want to be. He made an effort to be a writer, but wasn't engaged in trying to become one. Instead of making an effort regarding how he wanted to write, he simply wrote and kept writing. As Bukowski emphasized, our best performance often emerges when we are ourselves, sincere and natural, focusing on our true identity and what we want to express. This is entirely related to Bukowski's thoughts and intentions. Therefore, it's a situation that can only be understood and articulated by him alone. And none of these convey the idea that purpose, passion, desire, and success are easy or predetermined, as they aren't. They are all, like the complexity of the brain that contemplates the whole system, uncertain and intricate. Bukowski continued writing throughout his life, without making an effort to alter or suppress his own voice. Rejection, or the pains he experienced, never deterred him from writing. Bukowski's main approach was not to strive to become something, but rather not to become something he didn't want to be. He made an effort to be a writer, but wasn't engaged in trying to become one. Instead of making an effort regarding how he wanted to write, he simply wrote and kept writing. As Bukowski emphasized, our truest performance emerges when we are ourselves, genuine and natural, focusing on our real identity and what we want to express. This is entirely related to Bukowski's thoughts and intentions, so it's a situation that can only be understood and articulated by him alone. And none of these convey the idea that purpose, passion, desire, and success are easy or predetermined, as they aren't. They are all, like the complexity of the brain, contemplating the whole system, uncertain and intricate. Writing, filmmaking, painting, making music, or engaging in any form of work can be challenging for any writer, director, painter, musician, and so on. Expressing oneself correctly, or excelling in that field, isn't always easy. The pains, hardships, and perseverance required in this process can sometimes trigger doubts in a person's mind about continuing in that field. Where Bukowski might have meant "don't try" is if you don't feel the pain of continuing to do something, if despite rejection, difficulties, or sacrifices, the drive to continue is not inherently present, then perhaps trying something else in that field could be better. However, if the thought of not doing something is more distressing than the difficulties faced in that area, if not trying in that field worries you, if it feels as if you're not attempting, then Bukowski might have meant to say try, and if you've decided to try, you should proceed down that path wholeheartedly.